So not too long ago, I took a look at Mario Party 6 and was reminded at how shockingly amazing that entry was. Considering that this series was well into its supposed downfall, what Hudson Soft was able to accomplish in what I assume was in the course of 1 year was really commendable. So of course, I was once again in that spot that, hey, they still got it in them, I can't wait to see what happens with Mario Party 7, and all the great things that they can come up with. Well, that's just, hey, it's still not as bad as Mario Party 5. But the best way to describe Mario Party 7 is simply, well, it's a DLC expansion pass before DLC was really a thing, cause this really does feel like Mario Party 6 2.0, just with a couple changes and losing the day and night mechanic. And hey, 6 is great, so emulating it shouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but it does lead to a very underwhelming feeling. So just about everything you saw in 6 makes a return here. The board gameplay is just as varied and expanded upon, where each board has a different feel and objective to it, with one of my favorites being Pagoda Peak. The Chinese theming was very well done, and I like the linear change up to the level design. It makes it stand out from the others in my opinion, without it feeling luck-based like 9 and 10 would feel like. This board is still very much a traditional Mario Party experience. And Windmillville is also a standout level, with the goal being to pay as many coins as you want to take ownership of the windmills that act as your stars. But if other players pay more than you do, then they take it over. It's a great risk versus reward mechanic, since you have to decide how many coins you want to spend to get those stars, and to hold on to them. This is the kind of change-ups that I can appreciate. The shop also makes a return and uses the point system with mileage points instead of converting what you do into stars. It's a little thing, but it makes it so much easier to understand. And just like before, you can buy a bunch of crap like minigame modes or these souvenirs, but just like in 6, the only real thing you'll probably want to buy is the 2 new playable characters, with that being Birdo and Drybones. Much like Toadette in 6, these 2 are great additions to the roster, as now Yoshi and Boo finally have that partner character to complement them. We did lose the Koopa Kid, but considering that there wasn't really a partner for him at the time, it made sense. Though, I'll never enjoy losing characters in sequels. But the reason why I bring up the partners aspect this time is because it does play a factor with board play. Orbs make a return once again and act exactly as they did in 6. You can buy them or earn random orbs. And they come in the form of items, character event spaces, and blockades. Clearly they knew they did it right in 6, so I'm glad they work exactly the same here. Don't fix what's not broken. But they did expand on them a little bit that adds a little bit more to the experience. This time they introduce character orbs which are exclusive to each pair of characters. For example, Mario and Luigi get fireballs, and whenever they pass another player, they'll steal coins from them. And the beauty of it is, it lasts for 3 turns. Or the flower orb that lets Peach and Daisy collect 3 coins with each move they make, and bypass any blockade orbs. I love this so damn much. Not only did they manage to make the orbs more exciting, but also making who you choose to play as a lot more impactful, since now there's a bit of strategy involved, as now you're basically picking what perk you want most. In games like this, giving characters little differences, even if they're minor, adds so much more to the experience. And to me, it's something all Mario Party games should really be doing, especially as the roster expands over time. So last time I managed to praise 6's solo mode on how they managed to change things up in a way that made things go a lot quicker, and served a great purpose in the aspect of making it easier to get most of the minigames easily through it. And while I do still hold that in high regard, I will admit it can feel a little too simplified, not have the adventure impact that 3 through 5 had. So for 7 they try to go back to that style, but not do it in a way that makes it feel like a single player version of party mode. This time you battle against one CPU across each of the 6 maps, each with their own exclusive objectives that's different for party mode. For example, Pagoda Peak is all about reaching the top of 100 coins in your possession, or returning the lone stolen star to the Bowser Sphinx in Pyramid Park. I'm really torn on this approach. On one hand, I do appreciate that they tried to make single player mode a lot more in-depth than it was in 6, all the while not reverting back to how the few games did it before. But on the other hand, this reminds me way too much what like 9 and 10 would do later on, in the sense that it's mainly board game play with the random duel, Bowser, or Donkey Kong minigame here and there. So while yes, it's not nearly as brain dead as those games would be, but the random factor plays a huge part and somehow makes the gameplay feel sluggish. Not to mention, I swear this mode cheats badly. Anytime I feel like I'm getting ahead or about to win, they give the CPU a golden mushroom or something similar, and they get like the best rolls possible, especially for the coin blocks. Whereas for me, it always seems like I'm getting 5 coins a hit, 10 if I'm lucky. Or when I do manage to win a duel against the CPU, not only do they rise in difficulty, but somehow I manage to constantly hit the dud outcome and get robbed of the reward for best in the game, like fuck off. And to me, the worst part is just, I feel like I'm playing this specifically to unlock one minigame in one board. No more, no less. Whereas yeah, sure, 6's single player was over before you knew it, but at least I feel like I was unlocking a bunch of stuff, and it never outstayed its welcome. Here, you can only play dual or single player minigames, so you're not even progressing with the game as a whole. It feels very segregated, and in my opinion, a bit of a waste of time. I don't know, some people may love what they did here, and in concept it isn't a bad idea, but it just doesn't feel as rewarding since RNG tends to love the CPU and hates you. But, oh well. The last main element they introduced, and was supposed to be the main selling point, was the introduction of the Deluxe Cruise, aka a player mode. A very interesting idea, especially during a time when online wouldn't be even close to be a thing for Nintendo yet, and also the fact that there's only 4 controller slots. Hey, maybe they're incorporating that rare landline add-on for the GameCube to let 2 systems sync up with like they did for Double Dash. No, that would have made too much sense. Though granted, I think that add-on flopped hard, so I don't blame them for what they were attempting here. And I mean, hey, interesting approach. The way they got around this limitation was by having each player take control of each side of one controller. For example, player 1 would control the L button and the control stick, while player 2 would take control of the R button and the C stick. A novel idea at first glance, but as time goes on, it becomes pretty clear that this was more of a gimmick than it was a really fleshed out mode, not to mention a very awkward design. Unless your partner is someone you're dating or you're close with, otherwise, holy hell, personal space be damned here. But the real reason why this is just a gimmick much like the Mike and 6 was due to the fact that outside of specific events, it's just normal party mode, but the dice rolls are split in half. Each player has to play in teams, and even when you do get the chance to play an actual 8-player minigame, it's pretty rare. The rest of the time, you're just playing normal minigames where 4 play and 4 just watch. If you can find 7 other people willing to actually play this with you, then by all means, have an awesome time. But this is probably one of the most unplayed modes in the entire series. You'd probably have more luck getting 3 other players to control all 8, which actually isn't a bad idea. I should try that out, that sounds actually pretty awesome. But lastly, we come to the minigames, and well, if you watch my top 10 best minigames 2 episode, then you know I actually like a lot of these minigames. It's a very solid list, and outside of a couple, there wasn't many where I didn't enjoy it. Shoutouts for Fun Run, Spider Stomp, Wait For It, Funsticle Course, Track and Yield, and Pogo a Go-Go. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff to enjoy about Mario Party 7. If you like 6, then you're most likely gonna like 7 because it's virtually the same. Out of all the entries, 6 and 7 are definitely the most interchangeable in my opinion. That's why I say 7 basically feels like a major DLC expansion pack. Same gameplay, just with extra characters, boards, and a whole new set of minigames. What's not to like, right? But I can't deny that it being so similar to 6 does feel a bit underwhelming. Cause sure, being similar to 6 can be a great thing in and of itself, but that also leaves the sequel feeling like it doesn't have an identity. I could easily see people getting these 2 games mixed up with each other, and for me, a sequel is usually meant to try and improve and expand on what came before to make it a more exciting and better product. Mario Party 7 is one of those games that in my opinion plays it too safe. Thankfully, it's just emulating one of the best in the series and not one of the worst.